Welcome everybody to this Legends of Kalidasia live stream. I'm Jason, the creator of the Kalidasia universe, and tonight we're going to finish up our live painting series here of the Heragul Hammerhead. I've been working on this for 4 weeks now. This is week number 5, and we're going to go ahead and paint that up and do some little details on it and give it some camo stripes for the Kylon family. But first of all, I might as well get it out of the way because I see my friend Ryan is watching here. So hi Ryan, how are you doing? You can see the chat room, and of course if you're here watching live on twitch.tv, feel free to ask any questions you want in the chat room, not only about what I'm doing but about tabletop gaming in general, and I will do my best to answer them. And of course if you're watching later on YouTube, feel free to also post any questions over there for me to answer and talk about on a future episode, keeping in mind that I'm like 6 weeks behind on YouTube. I think episode number 1 of this series is the only one that's up in this episode number 5. So yes, I'm a little bit behind there. But as I just get started painting up the Heragul Hammerhead here, what I'm going to be talking about today is I was not last weekend, I was off at Penguicon, one of the local kind of geek sci-fi convention things. So I've got a whole bunch of stuff that I picked up from, whoop, it fell on the floor. Let me try that again. And apparently it got stuck on a book. I got a whole bunch of the ribbons and badge and things that are from there. So I'll talk about that whole weird experience and all the fun stuff and new books that I picked up, things like that. So that'll be my little discussion topic as we go along here. I've also got the schedule of all the various events that were available. So anyway, let me jump over to the work camera here and we'll get started painting up the Heragul Hammerhead, or we'll finish painting the Heragul Hammerhead, because it's more or less done. As you can see here, the base colors are all in there. It's time to do a lot of little detail work. So I'm going to be painting up gun barrels red. There's the javelin missile launchers. They all have little tiny missiles in them that you get painted up. Got the engine flares to paint up, and then you can see here on the bottom there's a very faint stripe here. In the Kalidasia universe, the Kylon family, who is one of the large families in the region where the current story is taking place, any warships allied with them have these brown stripes painted across them. Either they're commanded by a Kylon family member, or like I said, their crew and captain have allied themselves with the family. It's a little bit of a political statement with these stripes across the ship. So that's why in the artwork for Legends of Kalidasia, you see some of the Heragul warships with those stripes and some you do not. And that's all why those are there. Alright, so let me start by painting up all the red details. So I like to paint the barrels of the guns red, as well as the little javelin missile launchers, try to give those a tiny amount of red. So for that, I'm going to, oh yeah, about that. I'm going to use orange. I am going to use orange. Normally, for the red, I'm dropping everything today because it's getting caught in weird stuff. Let me grab that for a minute. Normally for the red, I use Evil Sun Scarlet from Games Workshop's Citadel paint line. And unfortunately, this is the pod that I left open one night, and it's pretty solid. There's a rock in there, and I'm not getting any paint out of it. So let me use the Troll Slayer Orange, and that is what I'm going to use for my gun barrels and my javelin missile launchers. And to answer Ryan's question, I'm doing fairly well. And I probably have plenty of time available in the near future for any voiceovers. So I'm assuming some more random Tales of Valhalla character from Ryan's stop motion animation series project there. Whatever, I don't know what he's going to need me for this time. I specialize apparently in monsters and demons. And very angry, ticked off Roman soldiers, but that's actually kind of how I am, I suppose. Okay, let's get some little bit of paint down here on my wet palette. Just gonna thin it down a little bit, and all I'm gonna do is just put a dab of paint on the end of each of the 6 gun barrels. So 6 fire cannons on an Heragul frigate, and that's all I'm really gonna be doing. So wipe off most of the paint initially here, and just dip the paint or dip the brush in just a tiny little bit, and just start applying some paint to the end of the barrels. And let me see here. So for Penguicon, Penguicon is an annual event in southeastern Michigan. It's been held in Southfield, Michigan, which is pretty darn close, just north of Detroit, about a few miles north of the northern Detroit border. For the past few years is where it's been. It's been in the area for quite a while longer. And it markets itself as an open source convention. It originally was all about open source software, hence the name Penguicon, because the Linux mascot is Tux the Penguin, so that's originally where it comes from. And in fact, I'll grab the thing in a moment, Tux the Penguin still makes plenty of regular appearances at pretty much every aspect of the marketing and the logos and things like that, because it still has a strong technology and computer component thing to it. There's a lot of IT related stuff you can attend, a lot of programming topics, game design. See, there's Tux the Penguin. That's the right way to do it. There's Tux the Penguin riding a rocket. I'll explain more about that badge in a little bit here. But there's also a whole bunch of sci-fi stuff, and then all sorts of other random topics, pretty much of anything you could possibly think of. It goes on there, because it's the idea of why it's still called an open source convention, even if it's not necessarily about open source. I'd like to point out I've done multiple presentations there with a Microsoft Surface Pro and haven't got chased out of the convention yet. It's also because let's see if I can. It's because pretty much anybody can present anything they want on any topic. There is literally nothing that's out of bounds. So you can get some really just different things from that you're definitely not expecting. You can go ahead and feel free to read the schedule yourself. There's a lot of adult topics that are really not something I discuss in this show. I don't attend those panels, but they're there if people are interested in those kind of things. I can go through I was going to talk about the various things that I went to, but I'll do that in just a moment here because I'm getting ready to keep painting. What I've got going on here now is each of the Javelin missile launchers has 6 little slots for the Javelin missiles. They're tiny little impressions that are part of the miniature, and I want to very carefully apply orange paint to each of those 6 little depressions. This is very tricky, and it's sometimes very easy to screw up. And I very frequently do screw it up. So, working as best as I can here. And it's very tricky to hold it in such a way to where I can see it and the camera can see it too. So probably what you can see there, I've got 2 little orange dots. I'm going to just quickly apply some paint to the rest of them. And then I'll hold it back over here so you guys can see it. So there we go. Let me see if I bring it up closer. Focus. Come on, camera, focus. There you go. So you can see in the Javelin missile launcher right here, each of the little missiles are now painted orange. And let me, as I go on to the next one here, let me bring up kind of one of the things about Penguicon and some of the other sci-fi conventions around here. The things that they do is they have these ribbons that you get. So when you sign up for your badge, you can buy ribbons for people. So it's like $30 for 100 ribbons, and you put random stuff on here that you like for some weird reason. Other people do this, and then you hand them out to people. For example, panelists. I ran a Legends of Kalidasia game, so anybody who ran any sort of event got a panelist or a presenter ribbon. These 2 here, the pink one and the purple one, those came from, for those of you who've watched Tabletop Battlefield, remember Camera Girl, Sarah, she gave these to me. They're both My Little Pony references because she's a big My Little Pony fan. That's a line by Pinkie Pie. That's a line by Twilight Sparkle. The next in line here, I either win or learn. That one there, so I'll talk about that once I paint up the next set of missile launchers. Everyone who ran a tabletop game got a couple of those to hand out, and I kind of forgot to hand them out to the people who played Legends of Kalidasia, so I had a small stack of those left over, and I took one. But that's kind of an example of a joke about how it's kind of like a joke about tabletop gaming, right? I either win the game or I learn something about how to win next time. That's one of those kind of examples of jokes they have. Let me get. There's been people who do computer jokes on those. Do you? I don't know how to answer that one, Ryan. I don't know the exact context of that particular episode of My Little Pony. I don't know the show or the characters that well enough to have things memorized and weird stuff like that. Some people do. Sarah, she definitely does. I don't. I'm not going to ever claim to have that kind of knowledge of that kind of thing. So there's other events. This is the first year they had a 5K race at the Penguicon event. So we're seeing a lot of these sci-fi conventions have a bit of a health aspect to them, where they're trying to promote more active lifestyles. So we're seeing a lot of races at some of the local sci-fi conventions, and currently, at the 2 sci-fi conventions that have races that I know of, I'm the current reigning champion of both of them. I'm actually a reasonably accomplished runner, and that's where this little thing came from this year. This is my little medal thing they made I got for winning the 5K race this year. There's only like 6 people running in it, so it wasn't a very complex race, but it's still a win. But anyway, I'm gonna jump over back here and start painting up the. Oh, I'm gonna ask Ryan about the one here. He see if he knows what the next one in line of the ribbon is. But I'm gonna paint a base coat down on the engines. I'm gonna keep working here with the Troll Slayer Orange from Citadel's paint line, and all I'm gonna do is just give each of these engines just give them a base coat of orange right now. Nothing too much yet. I'll probably let this coat of paint dry, and then I'm going to go ahead and apply another coat of orange just to get a nice solid coating to it. But these are just, like I said, these are the engine exhausts where the engines are flaring up and whatever thrust the ship is generating. That's what you're looking at right here at the moment. So I'm just painting those a base coat of orange. And let's see if Ryan, I don't know, this next one in line here, I'm not sure how much. The under that cable, Ryan, do you know what that is? I'm currently animating a close-up of, oh dear, goodness. Yes, good old Sir Derek. Sir Derek. Do you know what under that cable is? It's one of the coolest things he demonstrated what that is, and it's like, that's freaking awesome. I can't believe I'm just learning that now. It was one of the things from Penguicon where I learned, I'm like, oh wow, I never knew that. That's freaking amazing. Because every now and then, you can go to all these random events and you learn something you totally didn't expect, and that's one of them. And I'll give it, maybe. Take a guess, Ryan. Just take a guess. I'm not sure how much you deal with this particular aspect. It's media production related. I'll give you that much. So I'm not sure how much you deal with this particular aspect of it. We generally don't do much work with it. I know when we work together, but alright, so we're going to let those 2 layers of Troll Slayer Orange dry on the engines there. And what I think I'm going to do, you're correct, Ryan, it is about managing cables. It's the panel in question was about running a professional sound audio system. So the guy was explaining how he sets up the audio for large concerts. That's what he does. He manages the audio setup for concerts. And under the cable is the proper method for raveling up an XLR cable. Which an XLR cable is pretty much. Sorry about the audio, it's gonna sound terrible here, guys. I'm about to play with the microphone. But an XLR cable is this guy right here. Oh, that's my arm. There we go. That's an XLR cable. It's attached to the microphone I'm using right now. It's pretty much the main professional audio cable you see for any kind of real professional audio setup. And by over-undering it is a way of wrapping it up. And the way is, he can wrap it up and he just tosses it out, and it doesn't knot up as it tosses out. He just tosses this wrapped up cable the right way, and it goes whoosh, and it's like this perfectly like stretched out cable. It's amazing. I can't believe it's like so cool. It's like it's one of those things where it's like, holy crap, I didn't know that worked so well like that. That's what that one's about. The last one here, I'm not 100% sure exactly what the reference is to it. Huxley into the full Orwell. It's obviously a George Orwell reference. It is from Cory Doctorow. Cory Doctorow is a very well-known author on the internet, known for his promotion of Creative Commons, things like that, civil liberties. He's a very strong civil liberties advocate in the digital age. So that's obviously some high-quality anti-government, anti-spying propaganda there by Cory Doctorow. It's probably a reference to one of his novels. I'm not sure exactly where that first part comes from. That's why I'm guessing it's probably a reference to one of his novels. He writes a lot about censorship and digital surveillance and things like that in his stories. So that's the story behind all those ribbons there. And what I'm going to start doing now is working on these little Kylon stripes. And for that, I'm using Seraphim Sepia from Citadel Shade line, and just very carefully applying a little bit of shade at a time. I want to just build up these stripes, and it's definitely a little bit of shade at a time, not very much, and there isn't really an order to them. They're almost like pseudo camouflage kind of a thing. So it's just like, okay, let's do that. You want to keep them maybe a little bit apart. Just do a little one layer at a time, jump over to a different part of the ship and put it down, and it goes over every single surface. So it's not just over the beige, over the brown surfaces. It ends up going over all the different surfaces. And once you've got the layers done, you want to let it dry for a minute or two, and then you can apply the next layer onto it. And while I'm doing that, so while we're waiting for this to dry here, let me look over the schedule that for Penguicon. I kind of marked down everything I went to, and let me see what were some of the kind of highlights of the panels I went to. There's a couple that I went to learn something, a couple that they look like they were fun, one that I went to troll my friends. Like, I won't talk about that one. What did I do? I didn't mark anything down what I did on Friday night. I forgot what I did on Friday night, to be honest with you. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday convention, and my monitor is my little computer monitor here. 1 second. Refreshing my monitor. I can't tell if my live stream's still running or not. So Saturday I started off with, like I mentioned, the Saturday morning was the 5K race. I seriously jacked up my Achilles tendon running that race to the point where I can't actually run right now. But, you know, that's how things go when I run like a crazy person and try to win races. That's what I did on Saturday. And I absolutely destroyed everybody at the convention. But, you know, it wasn't that hard of a race. But regardless, that was early in the morning. 10 o'clock is the first Cory Doctorow panel I went to. He was talking a lot about the history of copyright with somebody else who deals a lot with like Middle Ages literature, and more or less how things haven't changed all that much in terms of asserting copyrights and trying to control information, and how governments and organizations have done that over the years. And that was the first big panel I went to. And Cory Doctorow writes a lot about that. So if you're kind of interested in those topics, you can find him on Twitter and 17,000 other places. And, you know, you can, if you're interested, he writes a lot of books about that. And the basic gist behind all this stuff is, like I said, nothing really changes in terms of how people react, and they use copyright for sole purposes of controlling information and controlling business markets and things like that. Let's see, so that was the 10 o'clock. Let me put a little more of the stripes up here in the front. So if you're just joining me here live on Twitch, I'm painting up an Heragul Hammerhead miniature, which I forgot to mention at the start of the show, is available for purchase over at Kalidasia.com/live that you see down there in your little footer at the moment. And I'm talking about the sci-fi convention Penguicon that I went to over the weekend. So and I'm painting on these little pseudo camouflage stripes in the ship as it's a political allegiance symbol from the Kalidasia universe. 11 o'clock is when I went to the presentation on the sound engineering stuff. That was where I got that over and under the cable ribbon I showed off a minute ago. That was really fascinating to see all the different types of equipment and how things are changing in the concert industry. I don't really work with that kind of stuff ever, but it's just kind of interesting to get exposed to it a little bit and kind of see what things are like. And I'm gonna set that down, let that dry for a minute. I'm gonna go back on to working on the engines back here a little bit more. Well, I let the first layer of stripes in the bottom dry. 12 o'clock was one of the fun panels I went to. It's cryptozoology in the Great Lakes. I'm not really into the cryptozoology stuff very much. That's, if you don't know what that terminology is, it refers to like Bigfoot and those kind of stories and things. Not really into that, but I thought it'd be something fun to go, just kind of go and see what's going on, and because there's always stories like that about cryptozoology creatures around Michigan here, and that's what it's all about. It's like, that might be fun to go hang out for an hour and see what people have to say. And that's about all it was. Whoever the woman, she apparently runs a podcast and that kind of a stuff, was talking about people's experiences and these legends of things from hundreds of years ago and stuff like that. And if you like that kind of stuff, it's probably interesting. It's just fun to give it a shot. So what I just did there is I put down some linen white. This is from the Reaper Master series. All it really is a slightly off-white color. You could use white for this. I just happen to have a whole bunch of this sitting around because it matches the pants of my British Empire soldiers. Which maybe someday I'll get around to finish painting those things, but whew. Historical mini painting, that's a drag. Oh my goodness. I'm just mixing in that linen white, just a very small amount, into the Troll Slayer orange, which gets you this kind of a little bit of a slightly lighter color orange right there. And very carefully, I'm going to use that to give a little bit of a bright center region to each of these engines. So you want to not paint the whole thing that slightly brighter orange color. Just focus on the middle part, because all you're trying to do is give the illusion that there's a bit of a bright core to the center of these engine flares on the back of the ship. And this time around, it didn't actually give them like a thrust mold thing like I've done with some of the ships. They're in a case I don't have in front of me, but I've used green stuff to make little actual engine flares on some of the Kalidasia warships before. I didn't do it this time, so this is kind of like, this is the state the warship would be in if it wasn't actually actively trying to accelerate or change its velocity in orbit, just kind of coasting. Where the engines are kind of hot, ready to go if it's in some sort of combat situation, but they're not actively pumping a lot of fuel and burning the engines quite a bit. At this point here, it's kind of the same steps over and over again. We're going to keep mixing in a little bit more of that linen white with the Troll Slayer orange to get a little bit brighter and brighter core. And eventually we're going to get pretty much a very tiny bright orange dot. And my monitor keeps going down on me, so I keep refreshing it, but that's alright. So that's what I'm trying to do here, is I just work up towards a very bright orange, very bright white core for the thrust to give it, like I said, the illusion there's the middle of the thrust is glowing very brightly, and that's how you accomplish that visual effect. You kind of trick your brain into thinking that the center is a lot hotter by using progressively brighter and brighter colors. It's a very simple painting trick you can do. So you can see here now I mixed in some more white. It's even brighter than it was a minute ago. So I'm going to go ahead and put an even tinier dot, and this whole time here I'm using the Artificial Layer Extra Small brush, the same one I've been using. I think this entire paint process has been done with this one brush. So okay, let's go back to the Penguicon schedules. I'm putting just basically brighter and brighter areas of orange, smaller and smaller inside these engines. 1 o'clock, that was the my lunch break, so I just went and got lunch. I think I don't know,
Does it matter where I had lunch? No, not really. I had lunch somewhere. What do you know? Holy freaking crap. Now, that was a 1 o'clock lunch break. 2 o'clock, like I said, these sci-fi conventions often have a bit of a fitness track to them. We had someone there doing a boot camp style workout. One of the types of workouts I do every now and then. This actually wasn't a particularly intense boot camp workout. And what boot camp workouts are, they're kind of modeled on the idea of military boot camps, where it's a lot of very simple workouts without using lots of weights that are done at high intervals, or very, very high intensity intervals. So you're really constantly, so the mixture of weight training, you're doing very, what's the word I want to think of? You're doing weight training, but it's not trying to bulk up muscle, it's more of endurance weight training, plus you're getting an aerobic aspect to it. So I thought I'd try that out, learn some new exercises to stick into my routine, and it was kind of cool. It was a neat little thing to learn some new things, and it wasn't too bad on my jacked up Achilles tendon. 3 o'clock panel, let's not talk about the 3 o'clock panel, that's the one I went to troll my friend. I don't really feel like making fun of people on this stream, that's probably what I do. But honestly, I'm not even qualified to make fun of the said person yet. I gotta talk to my friend of what was going on there. But anyway, 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock was dinner time for me. There wasn't a whole lot that I wanted to see at the moment. And then I had a massive, 6 to 10 o'clock block of just panel after panel after panel. So what I'm gonna do here, as I talk about those, I'm taking an almost pure white amount of paint, and I'm sticking it in the very middle of these engine exhausts. So this is trying to get the very bright core of the engine exhaust. So let me go ahead and get some more of the linen white. So it's almost pure white here. Actually get a fair amount of that on the brush. And I'm just gonna put a very small amount in the core of each of these engines. So there you go, starting to see a very bright core in there. I don't know how we can actually see it on the video, to be honest with you, but trust me, it's there. The camera is not great. It's still too cold outside, Ryan. That's ridiculous. I've ran 3 races now already. Yes, I think I mentioned before, I'm one of those stupid, crazy, borderline idiot runners. Yeah. If it's above freezing, then it's good to go running, as long as there's not any ice in the ground, because I've actually snapped my ankle on ice. That's not fun. But yeah, I'm definitely not, when it comes to running, I'm not a normal exercise person. I am one of those crazy, stupid psycho people. Okay, so 6 o'clock. Giving away work for free. This is another Cory Doctorow. Oh, this is Cory Doctorow. This is also Ryan. This is Kevin MacLeod. He was there in his whole presentation about why they chose to give their various works away for free, under what restrictions, things like that. And it's kind of interesting to hear them talk about that. And, you know, I generally tend to agree with them. Let me get that point. You know, being a stupid, crazy runner, Ryan, is not necessarily a great thing. There are side effects to that. But, you know, if it's what I enjoy, is what I enjoy. But yeah, it was Kevin MacLeod talking a lot about why he gave all his stuff away for free. Same with Cory Doctorow again. And the point, though, is that they want to make is you really can't control your own content anymore. Technology just doesn't let you do that. So there isn't any advantage to really trying to fight tooth and nail to control your content. You just can't do it. Because once something's in a digital format, it can be copied indefinitely, and DRM schemes really don't work. People try to convince themselves they do, but historically there is almost zero evidence that kind of a thing actually works. And I've talked about this before as a company. For a long time, and the only reason I say for a long time is I haven't put it back up, I forgot to put it back up, I've given away the 3D models that are the basis for all my miniatures. And a little while ago, I switched e-commerce platforms on my website, and I forgot to put up that page with all the 3D models. That's why it's not up there at the moment, but I'm gonna get back to it pretty shortly. I'll put it up here. I actually was working a bit on it at the convention. I'm like, oh, as I'm sitting here at this particular event, I'm like, huh, I forgot to put up that page where I give away all the 3D models for my miniatures for free. I probably should go about putting that back up, and I will do that sometime very, very soon. Okay, so I got some stripes in the bottom here, and they look pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and apply the same process to the top. I got to be a little bit more careful. It's much more detailed on the top, and a lot easier to screw things up. But I think I can make it work. It's the same process. Just bring out the Seraphim Sepia, and then I'm going to be just very gently going through and painting that. 7 o'clock, that I attended the Science of Scuba. So this is scuba diving stuff. I've kind of had an interest in it. I've never actually tried to do it. I really would love to just try it a few times. I don't think I can't see myself getting all hardcore into scuba diving, but it'll be fun to learn. And, you know, it's interesting to learn some of the technology behind it, because, you know, you can kind of apply some of those thoughts and aspects when designing sci-fi spacesuits and things like that. And it's like, oh, and I kind of got a good idea of how you would design, upgrade some of the what I want to call hostile atmosphere suits for the Heragul Empire, and kind of give them a little bit of what's the word I'm going to think of? It gives them a bit of a feel of authenticity, because now you've got some proper science to back up how they work, and that's kind of cool. I'm not seeing my video. Ryan, are you seeing my video? It keeps screwing up on me, and it's not. I'm just seeing black right now. And I'll give Ryan a moment to see if he responds in the chat room. Hopefully he's paying attention. I'll take a moment to get a drink of water while I'm trying to figure out if my video is actually working correctly. OBS shows it correctly, but I see a black screen on my computer monitor right now. I don't know why. Alright, Ryan says I'm good, so I'm going to keep talking now. I am just going to refresh my page one more time, and maybe that'll make it work. So that was, whatever I was at, 7 o'clock, just something different. I kind of joke with, there's a new video series idea I'm kind of toying around with right now that may necessitate going and learning scuba diving. But that's like a very far off thing. I haven't even got the first couple episodes of that new series fully written. I'll talk more about it later as I want to really make sure that it's something I want to do, and I'm just trying to figure out how much effort there is involved before I go ahead and start blabbing about it as I'm doing right now, you know, that kind of thing. Where I could not watch my own stream. Unfortunately, Ryan, I refreshed my browser window and I missed the first part of your statement there. I got the part that says where I could not watch my own live stream. Presumably there's something that came before that that kind of fills in what you were talking about there. But yes, moral of the story is scuba would be a lot of fun to try sometime. What was 8 o'clock? 8 o'clock? Oh yes. Wait, is that 8 o'clock? Yeah, that's 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock was a presentation by just a local software engineer, I guess we'll call him. And it'd be kind of fun to get him on the show sometimes. I was talking to him quite about this. He is working on making a tabletop game, Battlefield, that is projector based. So he's got this setup going where he has a projector projecting an image up on the on like some sort of, I think it's a plexiglass surface, and therefore then you could use that to track things in the tabletop, you know, project like some sort of 3D animated terrain, so you could use that for certain aspects. Oops, dropping things. Make it animated, do some kind of, and in theory, kind of, you know, be able to emulate rules and things like that. So of course I was doing some marketing to him, talking about, hey, I have this game called Legends of Kalidasia, and I can give you 3D models and artwork to use in your project. So I was talking a little bit about that. I've sent a few emails back and forth. I actually got to send him an email tonight about some of the things I was working on. But it'd be kind of cool to see if I could get him on the show, or I'd have to probably go to... He works his stuff out of I3 Detroit, which is a non-profit makerspace down in Ferndale, Michigan. So I'd probably have to go down there and take some video down there. That'd be kind of cool. But it'd be neat to see something like that. But like I said, it's very early on in the development process, so he's got a lot of work to do. So there isn't a whole lot to see on a show like this yet, but it's kind of cool. He's got some of the mechanics set up, and the idea is getting there. It's just gonna take him a while to get where he wants to get to, but that's just nature of how these things work. 9 o'clock was the first cosplay event I went to. It was... I can actually bring the book up here in a moment, because she's an author of a book, and I went ahead and I don't know, let's try to buy this woman's book. It's actually a really cool book for cosplay, or if you do any kind of costume work, whether it's not just cosplay, but if you do like make costumes for videos or movies and things like that. Let me swap over to my other camera and just let all that stuff dry at the moment. I'm almost done painting this guy up. And let me see here. Oh. So it was a presentation by a woman named Christy Good. This is her book that she wrote it herself, did the artwork herself. But what it is that it's a lot of just very simple tutorials about different aspects of cosplay. Because her whole idea, which is actually a very good philosophy for any kind of big project, is you break down your project into individual pieces. And in this case, she wrote this book here where it's talking about how to make all sorts of different types of clothing, both men's and women's clothing. So in this case, it shows you how you can make gloves and sew them together. So if you need any kind of custom glove work, you've got additional. Then she goes on to talk about additional options for how you can modify those gloves. So it's a neat little book called Epic Cosplay Costumes, and it's literally just a collection of maybe a dozen or so different little tutorials about how you can make different pieces of clothing, some basic armor stuff, some other kind of tools and utilities and weapons. So it's really, the kind of things you would see on YouTube, but in a nice book format. And sometimes that can be a lot easier than trying to follow random, YouTube tutorials. Plus a lot of good, just random tips of advice about different aspects of costume. And once again, that's Epic Cosplay Costumes by Christy Good. It's a really cool little book if you like doing any kind of costume work. It's a very nice thing. I got it because... I might as well jump back to this camera again, because this guy here, at some point, like I said, I'm going to be redoing this costume for the Heragul Special Forces soldier, and I really need to do custom sewing work on it, because I need to find a way to make a pair of pants that has a tail. That alone right there kind of requires you to do some custom sewing work, and I kind of want to, I really have no experience doing that kind of a thing. I build battle armor. Sci-fi battle armor and stick it to pre-made clothing. I don't actually make my own custom clothing, so that's why I kind of want to get that, to get some just basic templates down and how you do some simple stuff. And it's in there, how you can make your own custom pair of pants and how you can modify them to do other different kind of cool cosplay stuff. So that was that, and that was the end of Saturday for me at the convention. And honestly, at this point, this miniature's kind of done. So, what should I... Well, here's what I can do for the last 15 minutes of my show then. Why don't I show you guys how to magnetize a miniature? I haven't actually done that here live on the show, because I will be right back here. Let me just get up for a second and grab another one of the miniatures from Legends of Kalidasia miniatures, which are... Here they are. Where's one that's in good shape? There he is. Okay, we're going to use this guy. Here's the glue. Now let's grab this thing over here. I probably should have a base. I wasn't expecting to do this part of the tutorial, so that's why I'm kind of running around grabbing things. But this is an Heragul Hammerhead. Let me see if I've got... I should have an old Heragul
Heragul Hammerhead sitting around here with a base I'm pretty sure I can use, right? I don't think I do, but let me go ahead and just make one. I got tons of those things sitting around here. Spider bases. I have this nice toolbox of all my Kalidasia bits in my closet, but I can't read the labels because it's so darn dark in here. It's like, oh, I kind of got, let's see here. I'm looking for flight bases. Here we are. I need a frigate base. There's the frigate base. And I need some flight stands. Here we go. Peg topper. I need a 1-inch flight stand. And then I really need new artwork for this guy. There's that, and I think these scissors are over here somewhere. Even though the new artwork from Heroes of the Heragul actually is not an Elsoran warship, I'm going to use it anyway because I don't really care. Okay, so I'm going to fully base this miniature for the last 15 minutes and how you can use magnets. Because, of course, in Legends of Kalidasia, Heroes of the Heragul, there's an abstract way for warships. There we go. Abstract way for warships to face a different direction in their maneuvering. One moment here, I can't talk. I don't know what happened. Alright, there we go. Sorry about that. So in the second edition of Legends of Kalidasia, there's an abstract way for warships to face a different direction they're moving. So even though it's not necessary to be able to position the miniature in a different orientation, for purposes of cinematic battles, it looks kind of cool to be able to do that. That's why I mount my warships now on magnets and attach them to the base with magnets. As a bonus, it also makes it a little more durable if you drop the miniature and makes it easier for transport because flight pegs are notoriously crappy and weak. And this is a great way to kind of get around that. Alright, so I'll set him off to the side here. And what I'm going to first do is cut out the actual token for an Heragul Hammerhead here. This is the token from new Legends of Kalidasia, Heroes of the Heragul, which of course is also available for sale over at kalidasia.com/live. And then I'm going to glue this thing down to the base. That's careful, just cutting. There we go. So there is the token for the Heragul Hammerhead. And then this is the clear base that comes with the frigate miniature. And all I'm going to do is take a little bit of the Gorilla Glue. This is the Gorilla, this is the Gorilla Super Glue Gel. I'm just going to put a couple of drops down here around the base and then stick the token down to the base. It's probably way too much glue, but it'll work. And ideally, you want the center of the token, which is the intersection of the green and red lines there, to be right over the center of the flight peg, but it's, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's close enough. You can kind of eyeball it when you're playing the game. You know, it really doesn't matter that much. Mind if I join you via Skype audio? I'm actually almost done tonight, Ryan. I'm probably going to be signing off here in about 10 minutes. Otherwise, I would have you jump on. But I'm probably doing other live streams this weekend. So if you're free sometime this weekend, let me know, and I can work around your schedule. I have absolutely nothing planned. Plus, I want to actually change my Skype setup a little bit, because I want to find a way to record the Skype call separate from the main audio, because it's a heck of a time in post-production trying to separate out the Skype audio and raise the levels up, because I've had a lot of trouble with that over when I've had some people on via Skype, to where their audio levels on Skype are much lower than mine as I'm talking here, so I got to go in and chop out the 100 places where they're talking and raise up the audio levels. And if I can record the Skype audio separately, I can add that in later, because I've actually switched over a little bit in my normal audio setup. I'm running Audacity at the same time I'm running OBS, and Audacity is recording just the raw output from my microphone, which then is going to allow me later on to stick in that audio, line it up with the video audio, and then I can add in additional music if I want to at a different audio level than what you're hearing now on the live stream. And therefore, if I have you on Skype record that separately, I can then go ahead and merge that and control the levels a lot easier. I'm trying to make this as fancy as possible. But yeah, so if you're available this weekend sometime, short answer, yeah, let me know. Send me a text message, and then we'll set up a time where you can jump on. I got my other live stream projects I'm doing. So then, so right here, I'm gonna go ahead and punch a hole for the flight peg here. Ideally, it should be somewhere around where the red and green lines intersect. It doesn't have to be perfect, just kind of get something in that area. And there you go, that's about right. Let me stick the flight peg in there, and let's see if I can then... There we go. So you just make sure it fits in there all right. It usually does. Sometimes you have to sand down the flight peg just a tiny bit. But then I'm just going to put a small amount of the Gorilla Glue on the bottom of the flight peg. Now this step is important here to be careful what you're doing, because if you jam the flight peg all the way through, or if you're using some sort of like liquid, very liquidy glue, it's very possible that the super glue you just applied to your flight peg here can actually go and run down and glue your base to the table you're working on, and obviously you don't want that to happen. Get the Sharpie out of the way. I'll bring that back in here in a minute. And then finally, we're gonna put the flight peg topper on here, and then I'm gonna mount the magnet to that. It gives it a little bit better of a holding point. But what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put the glue, the Gorilla Glue, not right at the top. The particular magnets in question that I've been using for these ships have a hole in them, which conveniently is the same diameter as the flight peg. So I can go ahead and glue the flight peg topper onto the flight peg so that, let me hold it up maybe against the black there. You can see how there's a tiny amount of the flight peg still sticking out there. I can use that to reinforce the magnet. So let me grab a couple of the magnets. I should have some sitting in here. That'd be funny if I don't have any of the magnets. I'd be like, oh, well this kind of blows. Here they are. Good. It's like, yeah, I got some magnets. Let me show you what they are. This is the types of magnets I've been using for the Kalidasia warships. They're very strong neodymium ring magnets. I get them from Home Depot. In particular Home Depot, because for some reason Lowe's doesn't sell them, but Home Depot does. They are about like 3/8 of an inch across with about a 1/8 inch center diameter, and they work great for the Kalidasia warships. And because of the fact you get them at Home Depot, it's like $4 for 12 of them. They're cheap and they're readily available, so you don't have to worry about ordering them from online anywhere. So what you do is you take 2 of them out here. That's 2 of them stacked together. You can see there's probably a little bit of a ring in the middle. And then I'm going to take my... What I want to do is obviously... Let me talk about this. Magnets are obviously polarized. Opposites attract. So you want to make sure you mark the sides you're going to glue down. So that way, when you stick the pieces together, the warship is going to actually stick to itself, not repel itself. So when I have these 2 magnets together, I'm going to make Sharpie marks on the opposite side. And that's going to let me know which sides I need to glue to the thing. So if it's got the Sharpie marker on it, I know I need to glue that side of the flight peg to the bottom, basically face down the flight peg, or glue that to the warship itself. Alright, now it's time to separate these 2 magnets. The Sharpie marker comes off a little bit, but it should be alright. There should be enough left on here so you know how to glue it down. I'm just going to take some of the Gorilla Super Glue here and apply it to this flight peg topper. And then slide the magnet down, Sharpie side down, and there we go. And now you want to let this dry for a while for 2 reasons. One,
if you try to connect these magnets too soon, they're going to rip themselves apart. But two, if you connect them too soon, there may still be super glue that's not dried yet, and that'll super glue the magnets together, which is obviously not what you're trying to do. Now, same process here with the Heragul ship. With a lot of the new miniatures, they don't have a flight peg to them because flight pegs are a pain to cast. So I've got usually some ring of cooling vents that you can sit the flight or the magnet on top of. And once again, I'm going to put a little bit of the Gorilla Super Glue gel down, and of course, once again, glue the magnet Sharpie side face down. So of course, there's our Sharpie side. There you go. Now you can see there's a Sharpie marker on it. If I hold it straight to the camera, it reflects in the light. And then let's just stick that like that. And once again, I'm going to let that go for a few minutes. And then maybe after 10 minutes, letting it dry, they're going to be ready to stick together. And you can call this miniature done. And just like that, well, just like that, by saying just like that, I mean 5 hours of painting and modeling. Actually, well, 5 hours of painting, another half an hour of modeling this guy and getting him all cleaned up and priming him. You have a completed Heragul Hammerhead that's allied to the Kylon family. And I guess that's about it for this series. So I want to thank you guys all for watching. Let me swap back to my main camera here. So once again, I am Jason, the creator of the Kalidasia universe. You can learn more about Legends of Kalidasia and find the miniatures I paint on the show over at the game's website, which is hiding down here in this corner. Pointing the wrong corner. Kalidasia.com/live. You can find links to buy this miniature, as well as the Legends of Kalidasia Heroes of the Heragul, which is the starter set for this game. And with the end of this particular series, I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. I might start rebuilding this guy. I've got some ambitious plans for this armor and for what I want to do with this thing later on. I'm going to talk to you about Ryan about that off camera, because one of my far off projects that's may or may not be practical at the moment. More likely not practical. Or I might go ahead and take you through the entire process of start to finish of designing a miniature. I think I'm going to take on the Heragul Peregrine, named after the awesome Falcon. That is the new upgraded version of the Saber from first edition. That's probably what I'm most likely going to be doing, because I was talking last time about upgrading my video equipment, my lighting equipment a little bit, in order to get more space for doing cosplay on this desk and do live stream cosplay. So I want to do that first, and I got to order the new lighting kit and things like that, and I haven't done that yet. And I made a stupid impulse purchase this week that was kind of expensive that I should have done. That I probably might have to hold off a few weeks on the lighting equipment because of my stupid impulse purchase. I'll show that off in a live stream too, because it's a neat little gizmo that I got, and it's something I've always wanted in my entire life, and it's going to be an awesome, fun hobby project. But it's coming from Canada, so I hope it doesn't get lost in the mail or confiscated at the border. That's why when it gets here, I'll show you. I'll explain what it is. It's really cool. All right. I also have the option of this guy still sitting here. These are the pieces for the new Heragul Lynx Battlecruiser kit. I got to do some resin casting of that. I might jump on this weekend, and I'll talk more about what that thing is. It's nothing related to gaming or video or anything. It's a long story. It wasn't really even that expensive, relatively speaking, but it's a collector's. I'll talk more about it later, Ryan. But yeah, I might do some resin casting of the Lynx Battlecruiser next week. I need to start making that miniature up, so I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do, but you'll find out next week at Thursday at 8 p.m. And that's about it. So with that out of the way, once again, I am Jason. You can find me here on twitch.tv every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And of course, follow me and get notifications if you want to see my other random projects, like the one I was teasing just a moment ago that Ryan's apparently driving Ryan crazy about. But anyway, so I'm the creator of the Kalidasia universe. I want to thank you guys for watching, and have a good night.